Alright, what you see here is a Nutone Verandah Deluxe ceiling fan. I pulled two of these out of a bank that was being renovated. Well, they didn't really do much to renovations, they just fixed a few issues here and there and got new chairs and such, office supplies and everything. And they removed the two fans. These were behind the glass counter, so not too visible from the outside unless you really looked for them. But yeah, this is the second one out of the two. And these fans have been there since 1980, 1981. Both of them are not reversible, so these are my first non-reversible Nutone Verandah Deluxes. But yeah, I've always loved the brown and brass combination on them. I think it's the best finish combo for them, but that's just my opinion. I do like them in the all brass, all polished brass look as well, but I think in terms of like the era that they're from, I feel like the brown and brass goes a bit better. But yeah, this one seems to be more stiff out of the two. Well, when I got them, this one had more stiff bearings. However, for cosmetically, this one is in a little bit better shape. But that was obviously after they were both removed. So the other one got a little bit scuffed up on the bottom a tiny bit more than this one did. But something I'm noticing with this one is that the variable speed control on this one, despite it not being hooked up until now, only half of it works. So I'll show you guys what I mean when I go to run it and such. It still works, but only a portion of it will work. So it still does give a low speed, but it doesn't work all the way and such. But yeah. Now the bank that they were in, my dad would always go there just to pull out money at an ATM when I was a kid. And right next to the bank there was a baseball field I'd play at for Little League when I was a kid as well. So basically they're both fans that were there during my childhood, but I just never noticed them until later on, until I was like a teenager and such. I remember back in 2013, back when I first started the channel, I had been wanting to film them, but since they were in the bank, that was not allowed and such. So I waited some time and I figured maybe just try to get a quick video of them from outside, which I did. And then I did another video of them inside, just a very brief one without getting caught. And then during the lockdown, I'd always walk my dog towards the bank just to give him an extra walk and such, since he wasn't going out as much and such. I'd always walk by the bank just in case they got removed, because I was figuring out that with the lockdown being in place, a lot of places are going to take advantage of that to renovate. And that's what happened with this bank. I saw a dumpster outside and I asked the guy, like, if they ever remove them, if he could put them aside for me. And he said that he wasn't sure, but he would definitely see what he can do. And one day I walked by and noticed that they were removed. And they weren't in the dumpster. I looked in the dumpster and thankfully they weren't there. So I went back the next day and the guy told me he had them stored away in the bank somewhere. So I got them. And yeah. Now I had to always go and check on them like a few times a year in the past, for the past 7-ish years, saying I always was interested in them, and lo and behold, it finally paid off and I got both of them. So yeah. But yeah, I remember seeing these in the polished brass finish at a Burger King near me with oak blades. And there was another place that I saw two polished brass ones in, but they had the walnut blades. I don't remember if they had the Stencil or not, they might have. But one of them ended up getting replaced by a Verde Huntington 3 with the switch cap. And then there was a church near me that had 8 brown ones, and those have been removed as well, unfortunately, during the lockdown. Since the pastor didn't know that they were going to remove the fans, had he known that they were removing them, I would have gotten them, but that's besides the point. But yeah. And this one does have a one of the blades has a bit of paint on it. I think it's that one there, but yeah, and I did clean the blades, but those dust marks on the sides, they're not coming off. Otherwise, it's just gonna mess up the paint on the trim bit. But the fans never did really get used much. The only times they'd ever use them, from what the workers told me, is when it was winter time, just to have them push down the heat. So they really did not get used almost at all. And that's another reason why the blades kind of more bent downwards, or either drooping downwards more so than pointing upwards like they usually would, due to the gravity pushing down on them after all those years. So yeah, I'm just gonna show it what I mean right off the bat. So it's all the way on the lowest setting on the variable speed control. And as you can see, it's not doing anything. Still no power. I had to like get it to halfway for it to actually do something. But it still seems to be operating off of the low speed. So maybe, I don't know what it is, but at least it still will produce a low speed from and such. But it might be a bit tricky to do a medium-ish low on it. Now I'm wondering if I had this one hooked, not wired, to run off the pull chain, if it would give a better range with the speeds on the variable speed control, if the ones that they both are run off of. They were both run off of cardboard variable speed controls in the wall switch. But I figured maybe just try them on this way. That way I can see how the variable speed controls work. Luckily, the first one of the two that I tested, it works a lot better on that one. Like, it still runs as if it was brand new. This one, I'm seeing that it doesn't. And it's also going a bit slower on the low speed than the other one did as well. Which I do like, because I do think these fans will be really nice running on a slower low speed. And you can see the paint on it. I could have tried getting that off by me. It's just ceiling paint. Walnut stencil blades for Nutone Verandah Deluxes, they're not hard to find at all. I could have just put a different blade on it for that one, but I just figured maybe just use both sets. And also, that way I can see which set of four seems to work the best. Plus, I don't want to mix and match them. They already are mixed and matched, kind of, because I'm not sure which ones went to which fan. So some of these could have been on the other one, or all four of these could have been on this one. I'm not 100% sure, because when I got them, the blades were already removed. Something I usually will do if I have like a pair of fans, or what I would do is leave like a little mark on the blades and blade arms, like one. So like all of them would have like a little number 1 on the top, and then the other one would have a number 2. That way I know which ones go to which and such. But yeah, these both use a GE motor, and which is what I've heard to be the best type of stack motor that they used on these. But yeah, let me go ahead and so it still gives me about the same speeds that the other one does. It's just, it's not as spread out on the variable speed control. It's more, for the first half of it doesn't do anything, then the second half does what it normally would do. But yeah, the bearings on this one are still a little bit more stiff than the other one is. I wouldn't say that, but it seems a bit more I don't know what it is, but it still has like a little bit of noise when I spun it by hand compared to the other one. But I mean, I was debating on testing this one with the light kit on the one that's in the closet, the little 36-inch one. I think I just show both of them the way they were when I got them from the bank. At some point in the future, I'll definitely test one of them with the light. But I also think I see which one of the two runs better. So that way I can test the one that runs better with the light kit instead of just doing one with it and one without it. Plus, on that way I can kind of see which one blade combinations makes the fan wobble more. So that way I can figure out which one would wobble less and such. This is more of like the low speed on the other one. This is more like a medium-ish one. I was just showing it just to show you guys how slow it really went. So technically in this video I'm kind of showing it with 5 speeds. But since I had a much slower low speed than the other one did, I figured I'd take advantage of that and show it. But yeah, I really doubt these fans will ever run on high speed, in all honesty, because they really don't show that much use in the motors. Except for the dust inside from them never really being used. But yeah, there's a lot of places I could see these in. Restaurants, libraries, churches, barbershops, where else? Schools, houses. Like the amount of places I could see these in, it's like it's endless. There's so many places I could see these installed in. Like when I think of like the ceiling fans that define the 80s, I look at these fans because it was the only fan that was really sold for in the 80s. Then disappeared in the 90s and such, with the Veranda 2. But it just has such an 80s look to it. And when I look at like a lot of places that haven't been touched since the 80s, these usually I always find something from Nutone. Like Hunter Originals, they were popular in the 80s too, but they were more of a fan. That was like a knockoff. Well, not a knockoff, but it was like made to look like an antique one and such. So the characteristic of that, I can't really say is 1980s looking. Whereas this fan, I definitely feel it is. Plus the features on it, just like the variable speed control and such. That's something that you see a lot in 80s fans. Having a flywheel. Also, the fact that it's not reversible in this one. The later ones were reversible. And also the fact that they have bell canopies. Not for variable high. It's partially an ornate fan, and it's also parts of it that aren't. there's a lot of characteristics that I feel like makes this a prime example of a fan from the 1980s. We're seeing that on white paint on the blade. It kind of reminds me of Max's channel's videos where he'd put the piece of tape on the blade arms just to kind of calculate the RPMs. But yeah, it's pushing a good breeze still. It's funny how this one, the variable control, only half of it's working, but I'm able to get more speeds out of it than the other one. Not sure what the issue with it is, but I'm sure when I post about it on the Facebook group, someone can tell me what's wrong with it. It could also be that the fact that it's never been used in over 40 years, sometimes that can mess them up. Sometimes it does a good thing for it in the fact that it preserves it. But at the same time, the wall controls that were being used on, they're the same exact ones that are inside the fan, so I could always just swap it. The only thing is, I would just have to swap the knob that's on top of it, since it has more of a bigger one that would usually like see on the wall control versus the one on the fan. And that's literally the only difference between them. Alright, now to move it up to the actual high speed. Yeah, it does go a little bit faster. I'm definitely able to confirm that by seeing the white paint on the blade. One thing I gotta say is though, the fact that the bank was from basically like 1970-ish, 1980. I think they said that the bank was built in 1978. I think that's what they told me. But the bank looks, like for its age, it really looked to be in really good shape. I mean, thankfully they didn't really modernize it much. It looks almost identical to how it did before. They just replaced a lot of the electrical stuff for the most part. They didn't put any fans in the place of these old ones, so I don't know. It might have been like the heating or the AC system in there wasn't that good. I don't know, but it doesn't really matter to me because I got the fans and that's gonna be all I wanted. Yeah, this one's moving a good amount of air too. Like honestly, looking at this one on the high speed, it does go a tiny bit slower than the other one, but I'm not surprised by that because this one did have more stiffer bearings to it than the other one did. So this one probably does need just a little bit more oil. I mean, for a fan that never really ran much for the past 40 years, I'm surprised that it's running as well as it is. Same thing with the other one. Like there was times I'd go there and I see them, even like in the winter time, I see them in the exact same position with the blades and such. So I could tell that they never really did use them much. In fact, it might go actually just as fast as it might just be the white tip on the blade making me think it goes a little bit slower. mean, the air movement from underneath it's exactly the same. Alright, now to do spin down. If this one stops extremely quickly, that'll definitely tell me that the bearings do need more oil. The other one spin down to about like 40 seconds to a minute. But, you know, they definitely both work beautifully and such. But this one does need a little bit of work with the variable speed control, but luckily I'm able to get different speeds out of it still. Oh, looks like it might not stop so quickly as I thought it would. So it might be that the bearings on this one aren't really bad. Well, I don't want to say that they're bad. They're not really stiff. It's just more so the control. This works a lot more weirdly than the other one does. Yeah, it's come to a complete stop, and that'll be it for this video. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned for more videos to come.